after all the tragedy and all that, people who want to make films really want to make films. And that's the thing that gives us joy. So no matter how tragic it is outside, sometimes we, as filmmakers, that's what we want to do. We want to make films. We want to talk about films. We want to create new art. So it gave us that window of opportunity to immerse ourselves and we to work together again and to feel like things are normal. and that to me was the biggest takeaway that we got to make this film. Yeah.
明了吧，大家好，欢迎来到缅甸街，我是缅甸街的女儿万丽，
我是雨婷，
现在就跟着我们的脚步，
一起走跳缅甸街 ，Go Go！Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Minglaba Little Myanmar podcast. I'm your host, Annalie. This is our second episode in English and that means something is special today, and we are honored to collaborate with Taiwan International Documentary Festival, also known as TIDF, which just started yesterday. And as we have interviewed the film festival programmer Pei Hua in the previous episode, we gave a brief intro on why the organizer decided to have Myanmar as the focus program this year. And Pei Hua also has shared her thoughts on how they selected and curated over 26 documentaries from Myanmar. Today, we are going to dive into the perspective from Myanmar directly, and we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by three incredible filmmakers all the way from Myanmar who just landed in Taiwan a few days ago just for TIDF. And as we've talked about, the documentary scene in Myanmar is rapidly evolving, and these guests are right at the heart of it. And throughout this episode, we will be diving deeper into their experiences, exploring the challenges and opportunities facing by Burmese documentaries, and understanding the stories they are so passionate about sharing with the world. But before we get into all that, let's give a warm welcome to our amazing guests, Thu Thu Shein, Lin Sun Oo, and Aung Min. Thank you all so much for coming today.
Hi, my name is Lin Sun Oo. I'm a producer and co-founder of Tagu Films, which is based in Yangon, Myanmar. We do short films, documentaries, and currently we're working on feature-length documentaries and feature-length films.
Yes, my name is Aung Min. I am also a medical doctor and writer, filmmaker. And also I'm like some group, name is Taman Film Group. I'm teaching about film analysis, and produce film, especially to the young filmmaker.
To the young filmmakers.
Hello, I'm Thu Thu Shein. I'm the producer, and also I'm the director of Watan Film Festival.
Thank you all for coming today in Little Myanmar. It's our pleasure to have you in our show. And for the first question, I would like to ask, because I've talked with Pei Hua in the previous episodes on how the development of documentary is like in Myanmar, but you guys are actually at the heart of it in this film industry. You are producer, director, and also a directors for a film festival. So I think you guys must know better than we do. So, and since the rising of documentaries in Myanmar was rather new, and which was around 2010, and I believe for a lot of filmmakers, it's a new approach to make films, and for a lot of Burmese audiences, I believe it's a rather new viewing experience as well. So can you each share a brief overview of your perspective on the current state of documentary filmmaking in Myanmar? What are some biggest challenges and opportunities that you see?
So I came from, I started as a documentary filmmaker since 2005-06, and until like 2020, like my films and also my friends' films, we were screened only in the international, but not we cannot have a chance to screen inside the country. So we started a festival in 2011, and we got to know more about the other filmmakers who are also working as documentary filmmakers at the time. And it was running, the festival is run for like 10 years. And after 2020, our 10th edition. We stopped for like 3 years now.
Because of the pandemic?
Yeah, because of not because of the pandemic. During the pandemic, we have our 10th edition. It's online, which is more successful than the previous edition.
Physical one.
Yeah, physical one. But because of the military coup in the country, so we stopped running the festival. But festival just stopped, but we are not stopped making film. So all the filmmakers are still working and producing films these days.
When we founded Tagu Films, and this was in 2013, it was not because we wanted to immediately become documentary filmmakers. I think it's very similar to what Dudu was saying. For us, we began with the intention that when I was growing up, most of the films that we watched were from Hollywood or just like the popular films in Myanmar, but there was nothing called documentary that I have access to. And in 2011-12, when the country was opening up, we thought about ideas of how do we want to tell our own stories. And I think that in Tagu Films, it's 3 childhood friends who formed this production house together. So I think for us, it was more of a sense of curiosity. We love to tell stories, we love to watch films. And if we were to tell stories, how do we want to tell it? And then we try to learn filmmaking later on from there.
I would like to speak in Burmese.
Yes.
And I'll translate. Yeah.
ကျွန်တော်ရုပ်ရှင်ဘယ်လိုစလဲလို့ပြောလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီပေါ့ဖာမူးကဆရာ2ယောက်ပေါ့နော်ပေးရတဲ့ channel မိခေးနဲ့ခေးကိုနဲ့လာတင်တဲ့ဟာမှာစတယ်အဲ့ဒီမှာ documentary လည်းပါတယ် fiction လည်းပါတာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီဟာမှာဆင့်ကျွန်တော်က2010မှာပထမဆုံးကျွန်တော်ရဲ့စီကံဆိုတဲ့စီကံကိုစရ
So my passion and idea to start making films was through FAMU, where they ran a course to talk about filmmaking. And from there, I learned about both fiction and documentary, and that gave me the inspiration to make films. And the first documentary I made was called The Clinic, yeah.
I'm very curious how, because documentary is rather a form people are not so familiar with in Myanmar. So I wonder, how was your first experience watching a documentary?
For me, we don't have a documentary film but we only have a government television channel, only newsreels and maybe some propaganda programs. So when I first see documentary, and it's really too real. Like we see the real life, real story. It's not telling from the government television. So this really attract me, and that's how I started to make a documentary and also attend some filmmaking workshop organized by FAMU and same like Dr. Aung Min, film school from Czech Republic. So I also study documentary and also the short fiction.
Yeah, I think both Tudu and Dr. Aung Min, we do both fiction and documentary. But for me, documentary has a special place in my heart because, like Madhu said, when we were growing up, it was very hard for us to get access to documentary films. Most of the things that we watched were just fiction. And also, of course, like propaganda. So my first real exposure to documentaries was when I studied abroad in the States. In college, there was a film club, and then I realized, wow, it's a very impactful way to tell stories. And I didn't know I wanted to be a filmmaker after I graduated from university, but I've always loved the idea of being able to tell a really good story from reality. And then, like I said before, when we got the chance, that's what we wanted to do. Like, I think like many years of not having told stories, like we found it like very attractive to like find ways to tell the stories and to show to the audience different ways. In Myanmar, the interesting thing is when you say documentary, it's
Are people familiar with this term?
Because of Watan and because of like the film festival, they've become more and more familiar. I think year by year they have a better understanding about what documentaries mean. I think the very first documentary we show, they asked like, "Oh, how did you get the script to do this?" And then we had to explain to them, no, it's not scripted. This is when we did the interviews, they are speaking about their own experience. But in the 10 years that Watan's been running, when we show our films, I start to realize like people also really appreciate seeing things that are unscripted, in a sense also like not just directly like a story, but more of like a real lives and people's what they're going through.
ကျွန်တော်ကြတော့documentary နဲ့ fiction နဲ့တိတ်မကွာဘူးဗျကျွန်တော်ကဒီဘက်နားကရင် fiction ရောက်မယ်ဒီဘက်နားကရင် documentary ရောက်မယ်ဆိုတော့ပုံစံနဲ့ကျွန်တော်ကနေတာပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်စရိုက်တဲ့ documentary ကိုယ်တိုင်ကလည်း fiction ပါနေတယ်ဘာလို့ဆိုကိုယ့်အကြောင်းကိုရိုက်တယ်ဆိုတော့ကိုယ့်အကြောင်းတကယ်အစ်စ်လားဆိုတော့အစ်စ်မှာကိုကအဲ့လို fiction လောက်ထားနိုင်တဲ့ဟာလေးတွေပဲကျွန်တော်ထည့်တယ်။ကြောင့်မို့ documentary နဲ့ fiction နဲ့ကကျွန်တော်တက်မှာတိတ်မကွာဘူး။ဒါနံပါတ်1အချက်အနေနဲ့ပြောရမယ်ဆိုရင်documentary မှာကြတော့တကယ်လူတွေရဲ့ story ကိုကျွန်တော်ကခိုးလို့ရတယ်။ဒါလည်း fiction သဘောပဲ။တကယ်လူရဲ့ story ကခိုးကျွန်တော်စီကိုကျွန်တော်ကသူတို့ကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့ရလာတယ်ခါ။အခု fisherman story တို့ဘာလို့ဆိုတာလဲသူတို့ရဲ့ story ကိုကျွန်တော်ကခိုးတာ။ဆိုတော့နောက်ကျွန်တော်ကနံပါတ်3ချက်ကျွန်တော်ကတမ်းမန်းဆိုတဲ့အဖွဲ့ကိုဖွဲ့တော့လဲကျွန်တော်ကအဲ့ဒီ idea ကိုပဲဖြန့်တာအထူးတစ်ဖြစ်ပေါ့နော်မင်းတစ်ယောက်ပဲရှိတယ်လူ2ယောက်ပဲအများဆုံး2ယောက်ပဲရှိရင်မင်း documentary ရိုက်လိုက်ဘာလို့လဲဆိုတော့ documentary အခုထလုပ်လို့ရတယ်ဟိုကကြတော့ခဏ script ရမယ် actor တွေရှာရမယ်ဆိုတော့မကောင်းလားဆိုတော့ကောင်းတယ်မှာအချိန်တွေရှိမယ်လုပ်ဖို့အတွက်အဆင့်လူအုပ်စုရှိမယ်ဆိုရင်ဒါ3ချက်ပေါ့နော်ဒါလေး
So I don't see a difference between a documentary and fiction. These are just two different spectrums in how to tell a story. For me, I feel that it's about how you tell the story and the essence of telling the story. In my first documentary that I made, there were elements of fiction incorporated because I shot about myself. So then these elements interplay with each other as well. When we formed 10 Men, that was also sort of the ethos that I took into forming production. The elements, in a sense also, even with fiction, you can also take stories from reality and to make it fictional. I gain a lot of inspiration from that. So some of the fictional stories, the short films that I make are very much inspired by the lives of the people there. And in my 10-man group, I always say, you only need maybe 1 or 2 people to make a documentary where you just go out there, shoot, and the story will tell itself. Where in fiction, you'll need a lot of people. You need to develop the script, you need to find the actors, you need to develop a lot more. So for me, the element of those two interplay with each other very well.
Yeah, indeed. The boundary and between fictions and documentary sometimes kind of blur, and even more sometimes reality is even more dramatic than the drama itself or the fictions itself. So as Lin has talked about the importance of how people get to know documentaries in Myanmar is actually through Wartan Film Festival. So we have a director of Wartan Film Festival here today, Thu Thu. You have played a crucial role in showcasing these documentaries in Myanmar. And you've also mentioned in another interview that when you started the film festival, you wish not only to screen the documentaries, but also to bring the community together. Can you tell us about how you bring the community together through this film festival, or what have you done to foster vibrant documentary scenes in Myanmar?
In the early years, of the Watan, like Lin said, audience don't understand, and it's hard to understand the between the fiction and the documentary. So we realized about that, and then we decided we focus 3 things in our festival. One is the festival is place to screen the film, and another is a focus on the community filmmakers. So we need to know more about filmmakers and also make networking and make work together. And also another thing is building the audience. So these three things are linked together, and filmmakers and audience, we learn from each other. After 10 years, we got quite big community of filmmakers, and also we have a strong supporting audience for the festival, also the films. Yeah.
I wonder, how did you select or find out these films to screen in the first year?
The first year we just make a call, and then we don't know who are making the film outside outside of our network. We don't know, so we just call out the film. And we receive, in the beginning, around 30 or 40 people, we received the submission for the first edition, and we only screened 20. We also show other international film, and at the time I was studying at the FAMU. So I also brought some film program from FAMU, like student film.
So how was the reaction for the audience and the filmmakers in Myanmar? What kind of feedback have you got since the first year?
First year was successful, I would say. All these filmmakers and art community, they support the festival. And we were having a festival in monastery. The monastery is a special. They have a very big auditorium room well equipped with the AC. So we have a nice auditorium room. We just set up the projection and sound system by ourselves and show it. Yeah, and also our festival is free of charge, no entry fees. So yeah, people really enjoy in the first edition.
So at the first year, or in the beginning of the film festival, because you also selected some works by the local filmmakers, right? I am very curious, what kind of topics did these filmmakers are more passionate or focus on more?
More like social, political topic, yeah. Also, till 2013 or 15, till fifth edition, the documentary films are really strong, and slowly also short fiction films. Also, we got more entries.
Oh, I see. So in general, over these 10 years, what changes have you seen after the film fest started until now?
I think in the beginning was the early years where we were very close.
It was within the own network.
And slowly we expanded to international, and also we make connect with the Southeast Asian Film Festival, and also show more Southeast Asian films, and also some other international special program. And also filmmakers are more growing, and we also do our festival also do the filmmaking workshop. So also the new filmmakers coming up, and the films from the festival also got recognized and submitted to other international film festival. I think it's growing and growing.
Yeah, I see. So at the center of the film festival, the most important thing is the work. So we've also got the producers here today, Lin, and you've produced many documentaries in Myanmar. And I wonder, because you also talk about you've studied in the States, I wonder how your academic experience in the States has influenced you as a filmmaker and a producer.
To be honest, I never imagined myself to become a filmmaker. After the States, when I studied in the States, originally I wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh.
But then I realized that law school is very expensive in the US, and I couldn't afford it. And but I came back in 2011, where I was working as a teacher. But the reason I became a documentary filmmaker was because it was the first free and fair election in 2012.
Yeah.
And my best friend's father was running for parliament. And that was when, so in college I used to take photos for fun, and I started recording his campaign. And that was something that, I realized I enjoyed a lot. And for me, I enjoy telling good stories, I enjoy traveling. So for me, it was a good mixture. And then my two other friends who, we were childhood friends, we decided since the country is opening up, let's try to find ways to tell our own stories. And that's how we began. And so the influence I got from university was, I was part of the film club. I think that was a very important thing that shaped me. because it was the International Film Club. So it was people who were passionate in different type of international films. We watch films from like different countries, and that, to me, I really enjoyed that. So when we decided to make our own film production house, that's sort of the idea that I captured. Like, what are the stories you want to tell? How do you want to tell it? And then to make it like a film club. So if one of the directors has a project, we all watch it together. We talk about like what we think is good in the film, what we need changing, or if there's an idea, we try to develop it together. So in a sense, like Tagu Films, we try to run it like a college film club.
But in a film club, for the films that you've watched, have you watched any like Burmese film?
There was no Burmese films that we could show. Well, except I showed my mother's film. My mother is also a film director. So I got a chance to show a film from my mother, and then talk about my grandfather's experience. My grandfather also is a film director, so so I got to talk a little bit about my experience there. But then also I tried to find films that are close to Myanmar. So for example, the Burmese Harp was one of the films we watched at the film club. It was it's directed. It's a Japanese film about Myanmar, so I got to show that in college. But so that type of experience really had a big influence on how I run my production house. This essence of I think we're first and foremost, instead of filmmakers, we love film. We like to watch films together. So I think that's the first part, and then making films is sort of the passion that carries it through.
Yeah. So wow. So you actually grow up in a film family, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So you actually have a lot of exposures to films, cinemas, and etc. when you are little, right?
Yeah.
So you returned to Myanmar in 2011, which was still at the beginning of the documentary development in Myanmar, right? So what are some challenges of these unique stories and perspectives that you think Burmese documentary could bring to the international stage?
When we were beginning, it's not like there was a manual to say like this is how you make a documentary. For us, it was a lot of trial and error. But like I said, the three of us who founded the production house together, we love to travel. We love to find new things. So I think that's the most important element of like being a good storyteller is to have the empathy, to try to understand the perspective of the person that you are trying to document, and to find the way to tell the best story that you can. I think that's the first experience. The second is how to craft and how to tell the story in the best way possible. I think that's still a challenge that we go through. How to, what are the elements that you want to, with a very interesting story, whether it's documentary or fiction, there's so much more you want to tell, but there's only a limited amount of time. So we always have to find ways to shape the story into the best way possible. Yeah.
So for next questions, because you've talked about how you shape the stories and how you choose the angles of the story to tell. And I wonder, because for Dr. Aung Min, you've actually have multiple identities, like your backgrounds in medicine. I believe it add a different and fascinating layer to your filmmaking. So I wonder, how does your medical expertise influence your approach to documentary filmmaking?
ကျွန်တော်ကထဲရုပ်ရှင်နဲ့စာလို့ရှိရင်စာရေးတာနဲ့စာရေးပြီးတော့မှဆရာဝန်ဖြစ်တယ်ဆရာဝန်ဖြစ်ပြီးသွားတဲ့အချိန်ရောက်တော့မှရုပ်ရှင်ရိုက်တာပေါ့နော်အဲ့လိုရုပ်ရှင်ရိုက်တဲ့အချိန်မှာဒီဆေးပညာနဲ့ကဘယ်လိုပတ်သက်လဲဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ကဆေးပညာကိုစိတ်ဝင်စားအောင်ကျွန်တော်စိတ်ဝင်စားတာလူဆိုတော့အဲ့လူရဲ့ဇလန်းတွေအဖြစ်အပျက်တွေအဲ့လိုစိတ်ဝင်စားရတဲ့ဇလန်းတွေတဖြည်းဖြည်းမြင့်လာပြီးအခုခေတ်ရောက်လာတဲ့အချိန်ရောက်တော့ဒီလူတွေရဲ့စိတ်မှာဖြစ်နေတဲ့ဒဏ်ရာတွေကိုတွားတွေ့စိတ်ဒဏ်ရာတွေဒီစိတ်ဒဏ်ရာသူ့ဟာသူကြောက်လေဖြစ်တာလဲဟုတ်သလိုနိုင်ငံပေးတာလည်းဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်လူချင်းဆက်ဆံလို့လည်းဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်အဲ့သုံးခုနဲ့ဖြစ်လာတဲ့ဇလန်းတွေကကျွန်တော်ပို့ပြီးတော့ရုပ်ရှင်ကိုပို့ရိုက်စေတယ်အဲ့ဒီရုပ်ရှင်ကိုတကယ်ရိုက်မယ်ဆိုတော့လေအဲ့လိုဆေးကန်းလိုနေရာမျိုးနဲ့မှာ base လုပ်ရင်အဲ့ရနေ ကုန်ချမ်းတွေအများကြီးရ inspiration တွေအများကြီးရ
First and foremost, I began writing before I got my medical degree. And then after my medical degree, I got into filmmaking. So in a sense, you could say that medicine wasn't my real interest. My interest was people and how people operate and how people think and sort of what are the traumas that they have, what are the inherent insecurities or problems that they have. And as a medical practitioner, for me, the clinic is a great source to understand people, to understand sort of the collective trauma they might have due to the socio-political situation, or whether it's through the network of friends or their surrounding. These type of stories for me is like raw material to tell really good stories. It inspires me to understand what they're going through, and so the collective, if you combine sort of writing and also my profession as a medical professional, but also as a filmmaker, those three motivate me and push me towards telling good stories. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe for a lot of like creators or filmmakers, the motive to start to make a film is sometimes out of anger or grief or pain that you seize or you've personally felt. So this year you've also worked with director Midi in a documentary called The Clinic. So I wonder, how did you two meet and decided to make a film together?
မီဒီစီနဲ့ကျွန်တော်เนี่ย2012မှာတွေ့တယ်ဆိုတာကလည်းအဲ့လို तू ကလည်းတွေ့ချင်တယ်ကျွန်တော်ကလည်းသူ့နာမည်ကြားတော့တွေ့ဗမာကီးနေပေါ့ဗျာတွေ့ရချင်းကျွန်တော်ခင်တယ်အခုပြန်စဉ်းစားကြည့်တော့ကျွန်တော်ကဒီစိတ်ထန်ရ trauma ကို base လုပ်တယ်ဆိုတော့သူ့မှာလည်းရှိတယ်ဗျာသူကဗမာပြည်မှာ16နှစ်နေခဲ့တဲ့သူ့ရဲ့ရုပ်ရှင်တွေကိုကြည့်လိုက်တော့လေအဲ့ဒီဟာရဲ့လက္ခဏာတွေလေဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ကလည်းအဲ့လာကိုကြိုက်တယ်ဆိုတော့သူနဲ့ကျွန်တော်နဲ့ကသူရုပ်ရှင်ကျွန်တော်ရိုက်ချင်တယ်လို့ဘာလို့ဆိုတာနဲ့ကျွန်တော်က okay so ဘာတူတာကိုပြောတာအခြေခံ base อ่ะတူတယ်จิกပ်ပုံတော့တူချင်မှတူမယ်ဒါပေမဲ့မီဒီနဲ့ကျွန်တော်နဲ့အဲ့လိုမျိုးတူတယ်တွေ့တယ်ရလည်းခင်
So I met Midizi in 2012, and it's one of those encounters when we met that we clicked immediately right away. And I think one of the reasons why we clicked is I could see that he has sort of this inner conflict or trauma as well. And we were able to identify that with each other. So, with Midizi, he left Myanmar after 10th standard, after high school. So he also has this longing for coming back to this homeland, in a sense. So those are the things we identified immediately, and we clicked right away. And when he approached me to say like he wanted to make a film about me, I said yes.
So initially he wanted to make a film about you.
Yeah. So in 2015 he said he wanted to make a film.
ရိုက်တော့ဆက်ခွန်မှာ
But the real production started in 2017. So in a sense, the approach of how you would approach the story is different, but sort of the inherent connection was there.
သူကလည်း check off ပဲ work စစ်ကိုကြိုက်တယ်ကျွန်တော်ကလည်းကြိုက်တယ် Dostoevsky ရဲ့ idiot တို့ပါလို့ကြိုက်တယ်ကျွန်တော်ကလည်းအဲ့ဒါကြိုက်
So we shared a lot of similar literary interests, Dostoevsky
and Chekhov.
And Chekhov. Those were like these that where we immediately identified with each other in terms of like the literature and that.
But have you watched his film? Which one is your favorite?
Ice Poison is very very အရန်ကောင်းတယ်အဲ့ဆိုဘာလို့ကောင်းလဲဆိုတော့ तू က short film ဆိုပြီးလာရိုက်မယ်ဟို15မိနစ်20သာလာရိုက်တဲ့ဟာကိုသူ့မှာဘယ်တော့အခန်းရှိလဲမသိဘူးတခါ long film ရအောင်အဲ့ဒီနှစ်ပတ်အတွင်းရအောင်ရိုက်သွားတယ်
For me, Ice Poison is my favorite because I think the intention with Midi when he came was to make a short film, but I think he had a very strong desire to make this film that within 2 weeks he shot a feature. So
ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ motto တစ်ခုရှိရလေ no trauma no art ဆိုတာဒီ trauma ကြီးရင်အချိန်ဘယ်လောက်တူလုံနေအများကြီးထွက်တယ်အဲ့လား तू ကကျွန်တော်ပြ
I have a motto that says when you're making a film is no trauma, no act. So you have to have sort of this inherent something that pushes you and motivates you, and I see that in Midi's film.
But while making this film, The Clinic, can you share some like interesting behind the scenes stories with us?
မီဒီပေးလိုက်တဲ့ lesson အရာပဲကျွန်တော်ပြောလိုက်မယ်ဒီရိုက်တဲ့လူနဲ့ရိုက်ခံရတဲ့ protagonist နဲ့ဘယ်လောက်နီးလဲဘယ်လောက်ရင်းနီးလဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာအဲ့အရေးကြီးတာပါရုပ်ရှင်မှာဆိုတော့သူနဲ့ကျွန်တော်ကဘယ်လောက်ရင်းနီးလဲဆိုနေ့ရောညရောသူကကျွန်တော်အိမ်မှာရှိတယ်ထမင်းချက်စားတာသူကချက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကစားဘီယာတောက်တယ်သူကတော့နည်းနည်းပဲတောက်တယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကအရင်တောက်တယ်ပြီးအားပြီဆိုတာ ਨੇ ဒီရုပ်ရှင်အကြောင်းတို့ဝတ္ထုအကြောင်းတို့အဲ့ဒါတွေကိုပြောတာဆိုတော့သူမီဒီစီနဲ့ကျွန်တော် ਨੇ ဘာတိလိုက်လဲလို့ပြောရင်အဲ့ behind the scene အရာပြောလို့ရှိရင်တူတူစားတော့ပြောမထွက်တဲ့ဟာတွေရှိတာပေါ့နော်သူ့မှာရှိခဲ့တဲ့ဒုက္ခတွေသူဗမာပြည်မှာနေခဲ့တဲ့အချိန်မှာသူရှမ်းတယောက်လုံမယ်ဆိုရင်ခင်ဗျာမိုးရစေးရောင်မလားဒါမှမဟုတ်လက်နက်ကင်မလားအဲ့ဒီနှစ်ခုမဟုတ်ရင်လှုပ်เสียမရှိဘူးအဲ့လိုမျိုးစကားတွေကကျွန်တော်ကလည်းသူ့ကိုအဲ့လိုပြောအဲ့ဒါတွေကကျွန်တော်တို့အတွက်အမှတ်တရ
I think the crucial element of what I learned with Midi Z when Midi was shooting The Clinic was how close the director and the protagonist, myself, were. He was there for, from day and night, shooting, capturing footage. But during the time of rest, we cook, we eat together, we talk about literature, we talk about film, we talk about concepts and ideas. And after the cameras turned off, when we were drinking, Midi just drinks a little bit of beer. I drink a lot, but there was a big conversation. We have different things that sometimes were not said on camera. Was when we can open up to each other. For example, I could see sort of Midi's problems and things that he's kept inside him. For example, he's ethnically Shan, but in that sense, one of the things I asked was, what is the career path, if not filmmaking? And he said it was either to sell drugs or to take up arms. So those like little insights you get, and I think it's very crucial to have that bond between the protagonist and the director, and that was I think the most crucial element of something that I could share behind the scenes. Yeah, and there's a very strong familiarity between the director and the protagonist. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So the three of you are actually all part of the film for 10 years Myanmar. So this is an omnibus film directed by 5 directors, and this is also a film that was made after the coup happened in 2021. So I wonder, can you tell us about how you decided to do this project together? So I want to ask to do first, because you are also the producer to this film. So I wonder, for your role, why did you want to make this film?
When I first watched the 10 years Thailand,
that was the inspirations.
Yeah, it was inspiration and also show it in our festival. And at the time, like we were making a joke, like, okay, why not we make 10 years Myanmar? At the time, it was I think 2018, and 2021, I got a chance to. This project, I got this project from Keiko Se, our executive producer. She found a funding and make a film. So we decided to make a 10 years Myanmar version, and we discussed and choose the filmmakers. So when we see independent film scene, we decided to choose different very diverse filmmakers. So we decided to, we selected 10 men, and also Tagu, and also we are also involved as at that floor. And their younger generation, only one but red. And they also make 2 films from the one production. So the 5 with different background and different, we selected 5 directors to make 10 years Myanmar.
Was it difficult to get the approval of these directors to make this film?
No, we have one agreement that we will make our own script, and each production has a freedom to make their own story and with the equal budget. But in the beginning, we were only 4 production with the 4 directors. But in the midway, we selected another director from the only one bad red. So they have to share the budget.
So for Lin, you are the producer for one of the segments called Art of Kissing in 10 Years Myanmar. So I wonder, why did you decide to join this project in the first place when Thu Thu came to you and proposed this project to you?
Well, I think it's an exciting concept to be part of the 10 years franchise, especially like what Thu Thu said. 10 years Thailand, we've watched that, and there's also 10 years Hong Kong, and so like the collective and the idea and the philosophy behind 10 years to sort of imagine what will happen 10 years from now, and to shape that story, I think is a very exciting prospect for us also. And I like to give credit to Thu Thu because it was a very good curated group for filmmakers that we get to. We always say jokingly that there's older, old, and young in the lineup. The older is Dr.
You're in the
Aung Min,
middle?
and we're the old, which is like our group, and then the young. So, but it was a good spectrum of the different generations, and when we were working on that project, we didn't get to see the other person's work there, which is very unusual because most of the time you always want to know, is this matching up? And we only got to see this during the post-production, especially when we were doing the color correction and sound design. But what I realized was that it was really interesting. This is my personal perspective. It's really interesting to see how very different the films are. But if you look at it in terms of one theme, it was I think it's very nicely curated.
But how is your angles on producing your part of the film?
So our segment, The Act of Kissing, I think we really enjoyed doing that segment because although it's fiction, we wanted to pay homage to our background, which is documentary. So we decided to make something in between, which is a mockumentary. So it's fiction, but told in the style of a documentary. The director and myself, we're a big fan of The Office, the TV show The Office, where it's it looks like a documentary, but everything is scripted, and we wanted to try that, something like that. And it was quite coincidence because a friend of ours wrote a script called The Act of the Kiss, which was basically about censorship. But when censorship is released, he wanted to be the first one to capture the kissing scene on screen, and it was a comedy. And we also wanted to do something more lighthearted because with the current situation, everything is sad, depressing, or hopeless. But for us, we wanted to find a way to tell hopeful story, try to say there's humor even in the darkest time. So we chose that elements and to try to tell it in a mockumentary style. Yeah.
Because you make this film and this whole project after the coup happened, right? So I wonder what are some biggest challenges that you will have while making this project?
For me, I'm also producing one segment, also the whole producer for whole project. But for this segment that I'm producing, we are not sure we can shoot on the street with a big crew.
Yeah.
So for my production, I decided to ask the permission for everyone to be safe, be on set. So, but with the different script. So it was okay during the shooting. So we have no problems because we have permission, and they think it's a safe because we apply the permission, but we are shooting the different story.
But the police or the military found out that you are shooting different scripts.
No, they wouldn't know it because we use the same character, same name, but just the different
different content.
Yeah, context. Yeah.
Oh. So,
that's my part for the one segment.
Yeah.
But maybe Aung Min, he's shooting at his home, so maybe he has different story.
yeah. So for Dr. Aung Min, you're also part of this 10-year Myanmar project. So I wondered, how was your angles on shooting your films, your segments?
The first thing is in this time, the very good opportunity making film with the fan money. So this is my first opportunity. So I want to make film. So this is first. ရိုက်မယ်ဆိုတော့အပြင်မှာရိုက်လို့မရရင်အိမ်ထဲမှာပဲရိုက်ရမှာပေါ့အိမ်ထဲမှာရိုက်ရင်ကိုကြိုက်တယ်လို့ရိုက်လို့ရတယ်ဒါကိုယ့်ရဲ့ drama ကိုယ့်ကိုမလုပ်တာပေါ့ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ drama ဘာလို့သွားလဲလို့ပြောရင်ဟိုအပေါ်ရန်ကြည့်လိုက်ရင်တော့ဟိုပါပေါ့ dark ဖြစ်တယ် dark ပြီးတော့ darker and darkers ဘလောက်မှောင်နိုင်တယ်လဲကွာဆိုတဲ့ဘက်ကိုကျွန်တော်ကသွားတယ်ဇက်ကောင်အနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်ကြည့်ရင်ဗမာလိုကတော့ကျွန်တော်သိတယ်ဘယ်လိုလဲဆိုတော့ဇက်ပြတ်တာလေသိတယ်မှာအပေါ်မှာရှိတဲ့ဒီအဆောင်ပိုင်ရှင်လိုအုပ်ချုပ်တဲ့ကောင်ကလည်းဇက်ပြတ်နေဒီအောက်မှာရှိတဲ့လူငယ်နိုင်ငံရေးသမားရောဒီအလုံးလုံးစားနေတဲ့ကောင်မလေးကလည်းဇက်ပြတ်နေဂျားမှာရှိတဲ့ကောင်ကလည်းဇက်ပြတ်နေဖုန်းကြီးကလည်းဇက်ပြတ်နေဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်အခုမှစဉ်းစားမိတာမဇက်ကောင်တွေကဇက်ပြတ်နေတဲ့ဟာတွေပါလား
So for me, I chose the theme of how can I tell the story during this time when there's limitations of shooting outside. So I decided to frame the story within my own house, which makes it much easier for me to control. But large part of the theme that I wanted to explore was what you could say from dark going to darker to going to darkest. How much darker can I carry the story into? But you know, I just realized this as I was doing this podcast, is that all the characters in there have this
mentally,
yeah,
psychologically
breaking down, or I guess you could say the characters are corrupting or getting corrupted in different ways. The characters
deform.
Yeah, the characters are deforming.
Deform.
Yeah.
Saturation, deform society, deform group.
It's like hell, right? Like we want to see and captures how different like society, people, and how it collapses like deeper and deeper, maybe down to the deepest parts of the hell, right? So I always wonder what was your biggest challenges while making this film? Because if you shoot at your place, is it safe or for the characters, for these actors? Is it difficult for them to come to a place?
Difficult for the actor, but not difficult because all crew members are my students.
Oh, your students.
So we are work together, eat together, drink together.
Oh.
So we are easy to collaborate.
Oh.
So very, very good. The challenge is my film is shooting at night. At this time, it's a martial law, it's a no outside in the night.
Because of the curfew, right?
Curfew.
Yeah.
So curfew period and night scene is very challenge. So, but we are happy because we finished.
But how long did you take to make this film? I wonder for the three of you.
For each segment, I think it's a little bit different.
Separately.
Yeah.
2 weeks and reshooting 2 days.
Oh, that's quite fast.
So ours was roughly about 2 weeks as well. So because one of the segments we shot in a rural area, and then one in Yangon, the capital. So the travel going up and coming down the traveling time took a little bit more longer than we anticipated.
For me, for my segment, the shooting day is very short, like 5 days. But the whole project is finished within the 1 year. Developing the script, shooting, and the post-production is within one year.
And, you know, from my perspective of takeaway, like what Dr. Aung Min said, was the great thing about 10 years was during a time when it was getting much harder to shoot or make films, or it was a good opportunity to find our own voice again and to tell the stories. So I think, you know, you asked what was the sort of the complications and troubles. There were a lot of complications and troubles, you know. We had to, for example, with our segment when we were shooting, It's like similar to what Dr. Aung Min said. We try to choose from where we know and friends that we trust. It's not a new location. When we travel to the rural area, it's also, there's a small village which is actually where we have a small house there in our village, and it's like family to us. It's people we trust. So we have to be very selective about that. But in terms of when we were actually working on the project, it was a great escape for us as well. Because, after all the tragedy and all that, people who want to make films really want to make films. And that's the thing that gives us joy. So no matter how tragic it is outside, sometimes we, as filmmakers, that's what we want to do. We want to make films. We want to talk about films. We want to create new art. So it gave us that window of opportunity to immerse ourselves, and we to work together again and to feel like things are normal. and that to me was the biggest takeaway that we got to make this film. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Making films in such a challenging time, it must be very difficult. And I think for creators, because you're all creators yourselves, making films could be a way to catch some fresh air, to feel the normal in a new normal again. Yeah, so beyond the festival, I'm also curious about whether you've watched some Taiwanese films or documentary film.
Yes. I was in TIDF in 2018, so was invited as a jury. So I also watched some documentary from Taiwan. I remember one film that I like. It's an LGBT films about small talk.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So I even invited the film to Myanmar, also show in our festival.
Oh,
I quite like the film. So
To be honest, I have to say I'm not very familiar with the Taiwan cinema. Besides the big names like Ang Lee and Hollywood, I guess the very popular films that I watched in between. I'm keen to learn more about Taiwan film, especially the independent film scene.
Yeah.
From what I've seen in the catalog, there's a lot of very interesting films that I'd like to explore. Especially, I'm also particularly for me, I'm interested in Asian documentaries because it's, from my experience, it's very different how people tell their own stories in documentaries, whether it's in Thailand or Vietnam or Myanmar or Taiwan. And I, getting a chance to see documentaries from different perspective really gives you an idea of this is how they tell their stories.
First exposure is immediately eye-spicy. And he bring the director Simon Liang 2016 to Yangon. So I see the film of Goodbye Dragon Inn.
Oh.
I like so much.
Oh.
This one is my favorite. This is mine. So I am so excited.
Oh.
So excited. Now I'm so excited. Last time I reached to the Taiwan, Taipei. I go to the Goodbye Dragon Inn shooting area.
Oh.
You know this market and cinema, old cinema. So I'm sitting alone on so much time. So I'm drinking coffee. This is Simon, and I met with Simon. So I like so much. He is my master. And then, so my friend, so Aung is medicine friend. So you like Simon? Please see the artwork yan. So, and then I see the artwork yan. So, this is very good.
Yes.
Very good. But I like Samilia is facts. Yi is I like because I like Yasujiro Ozu. They are follower of Yasujiro Ozu, Japanese, and the last one is the City of Sagnet. Hu Xiaoxian. The City of Sagnet is my favorite one.
Oh, you've actually watched a lot of classic films.
And also on the street side, Yangon, I find the Taipei story. So the director by Edward Yan, actor is Hu Xiaoxian.
Oh, Oh,
So-
yeah, because they're friends.
Yeah. So very 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 ဟိုလေကဘာချင်းချင်းလေးပါလားပေါ့ထိုင်ဝမ်ရုပ်ရှင်တွေအကုန်လုံးအမှထိတ်ဆက်နေတာတွေ့
Oh, he says like it's a small world because everything's there, all
So
of them are
connected.
connected. Yeah.
So I visit to the Yi area ဟိုကလေမူဂျိုကလေးတွေအများကြီးရှိတဲ့နေရာ
Hotel.
No, the
Mojo
one
Lady
where with
ရှိတယ်
the
ရီ
elementary
အဲ့တော့ရန်နေတဲ့နေရာ
where Edward Young lives.
Oh.
အဲ့ဒါတော့လေစပိန်နဲ့သွားမနေရ
He went with a bicycle just to see that place.
ဆိုတော့လေကျွန်တော်ကဒီရုပ်ရှင်ဒါရိုက်တာလည်းကြိုက်တယ်သူတို့နေခဲ့တဲ့နေရာကိုလိုက်သွားကြည့်ချင်တယ်သွားတွေ့လူတွေတော့မတွေ့ရတော့ဘူးအဲ့တူရန်တော့ဒါမှသူတို့နေရာကိုစမ်း
As a director, I like him so much. I also want to see where he lived and what the places that.
နော်
is
စီ
there.
မီဒီစီရဲ့စီရှောင်းစတူဒီယိုမှာတော့
Oh, and he likes to hang out at Midizi's Seashore Studio.
Oh. Yeah, I think as Dr. Aung Min talked about the atmosphere or the connection between the Taiwanese filmmakers, I think you three and the whole community in Burmese documentary community are actually the same. You're trying to form a community or bigger network to foster the industry or any kind of developments in Burmese cinema as well. So last questions, I wonder, looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the future of documentary filmmaking in Myanmar?
I think like as a filmmaker, like we will keep making the film whenever, even in this like difficult times, or I think we will keep making films.
I think it's the same with Tutu. We want to continue making films. Basically, continue telling stories. Sometimes, they say that tragedy is a good catalyst to find out what you want to do and what you don't want to do. I think part of, even though it's a very tragic time for us, it also gives us time to think about and reflect about who we are as filmmakers and what are the stories that are important and how do we want to tell those stories. It's difficult, but I think that with the difficulty, as Dr. Aung Min said, no trauma, no act, right? I think that there's an ability for us to try to find ways to tell meaningful stories within the country.
I think it is very important to tell the story what we are experiencing.
ကျွန်တော်စာသင်တဲ့တွေ့ကြုံရပါတော့တွေ့ကြုံရပါ documentary ရိုက်မယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီလူကလမ်းမမှာရှိနေဘူးလို့လမ်းမမှာနေလမ်းမမှာစားလမ်းမမှာပျော်တဲ့လူကျွန်တော်တမ်းမှန်အုပ်စုဆိုတာအဲ့လိုနေခဲ့တဲ့လူတွေပေါ့ဆိုတော့အခုလူငယ်တွေကိုကြည့်လိုက်တာအဲ့လို lock ဖြစ်နေဘာလို့ဆိုတော့လမ်းမရောက်နေပြီဆိုတော့သူတို့က lock ဖြစ်လို့ရောက်တာဒီကောင်လေးမှာ trauma တွေလည်းရှိတယ် story တွေလည်းရှိတယ် lock ဖြစ်တယ်အရင်ကလိုရုပ်ရှင်ကြောင်ထွက်မှ documentary ရိုက်ရတော့မှာမဟုတ်တော့အဲ့တော့ဒီကောင်လေးရိုက်နောက်ပိုင်း documentary ကထွက်မှာမြန်မာနိုင်ငံ
So from my experience teaching as well, what I see is that there's a lot of young men and women who are lost, particularly because there's not a lot of direction or opportunities for them. And I think that that is a good catalyst for them to tell meaningful stories and to document themselves. I'm fairly certain that in the future there will be great documentaries coming out of Myanmar because there's so many stories to tell.
Because they are locks, so they come to the street, they come to the road, so they have very good opportunity to the shooting. No need to film school, no need to film university or Dr. Aung Min, or no need. Shoot. So this time it's a very, very good opportunity. But especially for me, we have to encourage to the like. Immediately encourage me. So encourage is a very, very need to encourage. After the encourage, our generation will be produce so much good documentary.
I totally agree that this encouragement, support, and community is what motivates us and keep us going for the longer time and in the future. And I think I actually I can resonate with all your thoughts why you think keep making the films or keep filming, keep writing story is important, because I think from our side, when we are doing these topics about Myanmar and Taiwan, it's actually quite difficult to get attention from the general public or the mainstream media. So for us, what's more important is actually to we speak our own voice by ourselves rather than having someone to speak for us. So I think you are doing amazing jobs and important things for the country and for the people. And to end this episode, I want to quote with a poem by the Burmese poet called Dukmanlai. I translate it into English. So the poem is, to dispel the darkness, I ignite the torch, open the notebook, take out my pen, write away the darkness. I think for the poet like him, he tried to write away the darkness. For you as a filmmakers, you are making film and filming to write away this dark time as well. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We are very honored to have you at Taiwan and look forward to your future work. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.